crispy, buttery. I might read children's books when I get done with animation.
Chat from the Fusion High podcast. Of course, we met earlier today,
Yeah.
and we were talking about Xmen '97. But there's one question I didn't get to ask you. How did it feel to get the see the positive reaction to Xmen '97? Because all over Twitter, Instagram, everybody loves this show. It's high acclaim, like we said, nominated for 2 Emmys, of course. So
Yeah.
how was that for you?
I mean, it's interesting. Like, when you work in animation, you work in a vacuum, and it's like you're incubating this thing for like 2 to 3 years at times. And also, fans that have been fans of X-Men for years, they expect something that is familiar to them as well, right? But you also want to like stand on the shoulders of the stuff that came before. So it's tricky, but it feels great to know that our sensibilities are what the fans want to see. You know what I mean? So, and we talked about that earlier, where it's like you really want to make the show that you remember it as. You don't want to make the exact show, but it is a continuation of that, right? So the best part about it is we're speaking to we made the show for kids, but the show is for people that were kids then, though. You know what I mean? So then that's great. And also it stays with the times. Like, we updated some of in terms of like shot selection and things like that. Like, I spoke to the OG Larry Houston. He paved the way for a lot of us, right? So I spoke to him about his influences, and earlier on your podcast we talked about Ninja Scroll, and he had just seen Ninja Scroll at the time as well, and like Wicked City, and he was super influenced by Miyazaki. So, but at the time when he was making the X-Men the animated series, he didn't have and this is not a shot to them either, like they were also amazing, but a lot of them were coming from like an 80s style of cartoons, right? So they had a difficulty kind of like staging things in a way that were more cinematic and that felt like, Miyazaki-esque, if you want to say that. And it became to be what it was, which I think is great too, right? You always start off wanting a show to look one way, and then it kind of evolves into what it's actually going to be. But no, it feels amazing. It feels amazing. It's like there's a level of validation there, but we're all real fans too, right? So the thesis statement for the show, the way I've kind of approached it was, you have like Silverhawks, Thundercats, Mask, and Cops. Like, they all had these dope intros that TMS animated, you know what I mean? Legendary. But they didn't continue that quality of animation throughout the episode because budgetarily it's hard too. It's hard to scale that kind of talent. But we were like, yo, we got the bag though. We can make the whole show like this. So that's the thesis statement. So the whole show should feel like the intro. Yeah. And so so knowing that, it feels amazing. That's a long-winded way of saying it feels dope. But that was kind of the our modus operandi, so to speak.
How you doing?
Good.
Jeremy from Fusion High Podcast. We talked earlier, but even when you were talking before this, I seen that. No, I ain't seen. I heard how grateful you are and just your vast knowledge of anime, comic books, and all that, man. Where does that come from? I mean, obviously you're great. You're grateful for it all, but like, where does that come from?
It's probably a really easy answer, honestly. The people that I was influenced by, they are still working, right? And so I'm chasing mastery, and it's easy to be humble when these people are still growing and expanding and continuing to push the boundaries. So it's not like you're just catching up to people, right? And so as they continue to redefine what the limits are, I just and also too, I'm proud to be part of a lineage. I stand on the shoulders of everybody that came before me. I exist beyond myself as well. I think that's important. And I'm young, but I'm old enough to see the next wave of people that are like, yo, I grew up looking at your work, which is like, hold up, don't approach me like that, first off. Chill out. But no, I'm old enough to see that as well, So really, my goal is always to just take the baton and then run with it as far as I can, and make content that is like as potent as the stuff that I grew up watching. And in that, I mean, mastery is a humble journey. It's not easy to continue to push yourself every day. So, and I think if you're really doing like real self-evaluation and being honest with yourself, then you'll remain humble, you know. Yeah, I never rest on my laurels or anything like that. I always kind of try to get better every day. Like the theme of my life is transcendence, if that makes any sense.
You dropping gems. That's all I
Yeah.
got to say.
Hi, I'm Kira, also known as Lady Mandalore for, oh Lord,
Dope.
For
And you
Blurred
are you a Slytherin?
yes.
We here.
My guy, I already knew.
was cool
My
when you
guy.
walked in.
And smooth.
All right.
Hi. So, I am in awe of the level of work that you have done already. I think that what you have put out into the world should absolutely be celebrated. X-Men
Thank you.
97 is not the first and only thing that comes to mind for me. Arc,
Arc was yo
Impeccable.
slept on, and it got caught up in it got caught up for a while, but I'm glad it's out.
so
Thank you.
no problem. With that, you do such amazing work for integrated storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to do that centers, or do you have an idea of something that centers on the Black community itself, and that's for the diaspora, that's Caribbean culture, that's Black
Sure.
American, African? Is there anything?
Well, I like to when I make art, especially my own personal projects, I like to speak to the subconscious, so that you're teaching people without them knowing that they're being taught, you know. And a lot of times, especially in storytelling, I think that it's important to give the question and not give the answer, right? And so, and if you lace things with enough potency, I think that it has replay value, and you'll find stuff the more you dig. And then hopefully I'll put them on a path of like, oh, I didn't even know about this. Like, so for instance, I have like a cosmic horror Western. It's called Die Laughing, right? And I've been working on it on the side for about a year or so. I've been working on a pilot, which is, I'm one person, so I'm making this 27-minute animatic. But essentially, it's about like a character that ends up, he's 2,500 years old, but he's from Ethiopia around the time of like the Xmen Empire, right? And so if you didn't know anything about that, you you'd research that and learn all about that time period and stuff like that. And then also he ends up getting cursed for a reason, and he's been alive all this time, but he comes to the new world to find basically a way to kill himself because he's tired of being alive. But also you learn more about American history through that, and it takes place in the 1800s because it's a Western, right? So now you get a chance to see us in these as ranchers, cowboys. They leave us out of all these stories, but we were the majority of them. You know what I'm saying? So you're getting some American history, you're getting African history through the flashbacks where I'm able to showcase what it would look like through my lens and all that kind of stuff as well. And so, but it's not so overt. It's just it just becomes a world. It's just about immersion. And I hope that through stories like that I can continue to, you know, highlight, you know, our rich world history. Like it's not a slight to any other things, but for me, my personal approach has always been to make stuff that's not so grounded in emotion and arcs and themes, but not so grounded as like so much street level all the time, because we have such a rich world history that they don't highlight in a lot of media. So that's kind of been my take on it, you know. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I got some sci-fi ones too, but I'm not gonna sit up here and wax poetic mad long about my own stuff.
I mean, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
By the way, Tafari TV, Ethiopian name, by the way.
Dope.
If Die Laughing needs a home, I'm with Blurred Station. So.
Dope.
But originally, you and Carl Jones were supposed to be here together. Were y'all presenting a project, or did y'all have something that y'all were workshopping?
No, I think that tomorrow we were supposed to do like an animation panel together, which was ill because I saw last year that he was here, and I was like, wait, these guys got a con? So I was a little butthurt because I found out late, you know? And so I was like, oh, I got to be a part of this. And I didn't know if he was going to be here or not. So we weren't debuting anything, but it's always a great opportunity because he changed the trajectory of my career, excuse me. Whereas I was working in comics, I wanted to try to like diversify kind of the stuff that I was doing. And he found my work and instantly was like, yo, I believe in your talent. I want you to come design this show, which ended up being Black Dynamite, you know. And I was a fan of the movie. And also, what a dope project to start on. I got spoiled because I felt like, yo, if this is what animation is, this is fire. But I didn't realize that at the time, and things are changing now, which is great, which I talked about that generational thing, like the next wave of creatives that are coming in that look like us. You could have dropped every black person. If you dropped a bomb in that building, you would have killed every black person in animation. Because they formed like Voltron to make this show. And, you know, now you can see the results in that, right? And Carl's a genius, you know what I mean? So I'm forever thankful for that. Like, so anytime I get to sing his praises, it's always dope. I was just going to sit up here and compliment him until he felt uncomfortable. So that's probably
He almost cried last year.
Yeah. Bring me back next year. We come back next year, we're gonna make that happen. Yeah, we're gonna make that happen. But no, that was it. So no plan or anything like that. It would just been like a dope coincidence, you know.
Anyone else? All right. You want to go?
Oh, me? Yeah, hi. Well, hello. Pardon me, I didn't know. Hi. I'm good. So, I would love to be able to show you a platform called, we kind of work together,
Dope.
called Blurred Station. It is a place that we're trying to set up for us as a culture to find
Dope.
a home and be presented in a fashion that is not common place and will not make people uncomfortable, but also expand their eyes to the Black experience.
Dope.
Should they?
I like this
feel so
already.
inclined. Yes, no, it is. It is. I have been impressed, and it is hard to impress me. But who got next? Please take this away from me.
We'll just go back. All right. First off, I don't know if anybody said it, but congrats on the Emmy nomination.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I gotta say, every time, it's not an individual nomination, which is great. I don't believe in those anyway, especially in animation, because you know, it's such a team effort. But we got two of those things, so hopefully we get one at least. But it's amazing to be nominated regardless. So
And that
thank
was
you.
for Remember It, correct?
So we got Best Episode for Remember It. We were nominated for that. And then Best Outstanding Drama Series.
What was it like working on that episode? Because that's the one where I saw everybody was like, you need to watch this show now. Like, she was in our group chat crying and laughing at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, they was happy and sad just like that. So,
Yeah, no, it's dope. So shout out to the other director, Emmett Yonemura. So I directed the even episodes, and her team directed the odd episodes. We have a lot of talent that overlaps, right? Especially an episode like that. You know, it's all hands on deck because that was planned from the beginning. It was like, this is the Red Wedding episode, mid-season finale. This is before we even started episode 1. We knew it was coming. We didn't know what was coming. But we knew there's a Red Wedding episode, and of course people gonna die in that, right? So, but we didn't know it was Gambit. I was mad at first, you know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, come on, you can't do my boy like that. Like, that's not cool. But the more I wrapped my mind around it, I was like, no, this is right, you know. It's, given also comic canon, you know, also. So, but no, working on that, I think seeing the first pass of the storyboards, I knew it was gonna be crazy. Like, I knew it was gonna be crazy. So then it's just a matter of like either they're gonna come after us with pitchforks, or you know, which I think people still want it to a little bit, you know. But they love to hate it, you know. So or hate to love it, I should say. So no, it's amazing, and that was one of the ones where we just knew, yeah, like I said, if people really dug it, then we're in there, you know. So then it's just a matter of sticking to dismount and. With something like that, because we crammed so much narrative into each episode, that one was paced differently, where it felt like, oh, this is like a nice cinematic one-off. And then, you know, we have the 3-part finale, which there's a lot happening there, but there's just a lot going on at one time. But we were able to just kind of sit in that moment and absorb all of that, you know. So it was great. Like, some of the most talented people in the industry, I still stand by the fact that I think we have the best team and stateside. And there's a lot of amazing people that I know and are colleagues of mine, but I just pound for pound, I stand by that. So it was expected. And Studio Mir, shout out to them, Studio Mir, they're legendary as well. they killed it in terms of like the animation. You know, when it came back, I think even take ones were like, oh, this is fire. And we have in-house animation teams as well. Shout out to Jeremy Polgar and Nasir Pasha and Daisy and everybody else that's on that team. That we did retake stateside as well to just push as much as we can. And these are amazing animators. Jeremy I've worked with for years. Nasir, he just did his short film, which was that the Dragon Ball Legend one on YouTube, where yeah, like a legend, yeah, the one where Broly goes ham on.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so that was Nasir's personal project. He was animating that on paper when I first met him. So it took him 4 years to make that. And it happened to drop right when we were doing Xmen. And so it's that caliber of people that were working with us stateside, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Yeah, he's a beast. Yeah, he's a beast. So it was amazing. I'm glad people didn't try to kill me after. That's I'm cool with that. I like being alive.
All I gotta say is damn.
Yeah.
But I've noticed a lot of people haven't mentioned this one cartoon or one of your animations, I should say, Kipo.
Oh yeah.
My,
Also Emmy nominated, by the way, which is fire.
Really, I didn't know that.
Best Outstanding.
Yeah, can you give us a story about how all that happened, your part and all that good stuff? My daughter loved this show, by the way.
It was fun. Yeah, no, it was fun. So the homie Rad Seacrest, who was the creator of Kipo, right? So it's interesting. I messaged him on DeviantArt when I first got to LA. It might have been around. I mean, I got there around 2010-ish. I might have hit him up around 2012 or something like that. And I just was like, yo, I'm a big fan of your stuff. Like, I love your style. It reminds me of like kind of this Tekken Concrete, esque kind of look to it. Where it's like geometric in the best way and aspects of that. And I was like, yo, man, I know you're working on Dragons too. Can I just come by and see DreamWorks sometime? And he was like, yeah, bro, come by. He just brought me by. So I went to have lunch at the DreamWorks campus, and he was like, here's the secret bar, speakeasy, all that kind of stuff. But then he sat me down at lunch with the head of story, also Peter Ramsey, first black man to ever win an Oscar for best animated picture on Spider-Verse 1, right? So he sat me down with like 4 people, heavy hitters, that was just like, and I was just like, chilling at lunch, trying to be cool, trying to not embarrass myself. And I was like, this dude is genuine, and he loved my stuff. And he was like, bro, come to my office. I want to show you something. And he had like 18 pages of the comic of Kipo already done. And he was like, look, I just got married. My wife is going to want to have a kid in 2 years. I'm going to finish this comic, I'm going to sell it to DreamWorks, and when I get it done, I'm going to hire you as a director. And then he did that. Yeah, and then he did that. And that was like, he got the show done, and by the time we started production, it was like 4 more years after that. And yeah, and we worked on that. We did, which was ill. And, he had been a DreamWorks feature for, I think, 12, 13 years at that point. So Netflix gave him an order of like 30 episodes out the gate. They gave him 3 seasons. So yeah, it was like we got to tell, which is crazy. That never happens. Yeah. So yeah, no, we were able to do that, and we worked with Mir on that one as well, which was dope. Which is kind of out of what they normally do, but I think that they took to it like a glove. And and also it was like unlike any way. I've never been on a project where like Netflix was like, we don't have any notes because we don't understand what this is. But they knew it was something that was dope. They were like, well, we don't, you just do what you're doing, So unless it was like story related where it's like an arc is not translating. Yeah. So it was just fun because it's essentially Mad Max and Alice in Wonderland put together, So that was cool. That was kind of how it all happened though. Yeah.
All right, I have 2 questions. So the first one is, so with the success of Xmen 97, is there any other like old school animated cartoon that you would like to bring back and continue? If you could.
Yeah, there's probably
Yeah.
no. There's so many things. You know what I mean? That's why I'm like, damn. I'd say definitely Turtles, but I'd like to do another take on that that's more cinematic, and which I can't say much about right now. But I'd like to do that, and but really though, I'm trying to make new stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean? X-Men was a bucket list for me because of what it represents in terms of like me discovering comics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I would say I'm trying to make new stuff because I want to see more people that look like us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's not too many things I would rather that I'd like to reboot per se. But like X-Men and Ninja Turtles, just to my childhood, those are real close to my heart. So I want to do something with that. I've worked on almost every single other thing except for anything Turtles related. So.
Okay. And so, do you do a lot of cons? Is this your first con?
I don't do many actually. 'Cause,
okay.
Yeah, because being a production artist, most of my stuff is NDA stuff, and then it's storyboard related stuff, and I don't have a lot of time to do personal art, so I don't have a bunch of artwork to sell or anything like that. But I try to do at least two now. You know, like I went for a long time without doing any, and now I do Lightbox in LA, and DreamCon. I'm coming back here. Yeah, this is popping. This is where it's supposed to be at. So I'm gonna come here. So I think I'll probably table next year as well. Have some stuff out, you know. So
Yo, I just got one question. You know,
good.
I be making the memes and like to have discussions and debates and stuff. My name is Critics of Culture. I run a meme page. I'm a social media influencer and a content creator. And first, want to say thank you for supporting my page and reposting my stuff and commenting. But I wanted to ask you, between Alan Moore and Frank Miller, who do you think has the best body of work and who is the best writer?
Alan Moore, without question. I like Frank Miller. He's okay. You know, he's a legend, but
Why Alan?
his stories are more poignant. It's just that they're woven together better. I think that Frank Miller, his art is amazing, right? So it's different. Like in terms of visuals, he's a legend, right? He's done some things with paneling. There's a panel I remember of Daredevil before he started working on like Sin City and stuff like that, and more of his creator-owned stuff. He's crossing the street, and every time he gets closer to the middle of the street, you just hear honk, 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 and then before you know it, it's like the whole panel is just him with a bunch of honks in the background, and then the last panel is him on his knees with just one word, one big word of honk. And it's just like that, like how he treated paneling, you know, and that kind of stuff. His kind of like, if it's not black, it's white kind of approach to sequential artwork as well. You know, Dark Knight Returns. I mean, he's done some legendary stuff, but I don't think they're in the same league as far as writing is concerned. So, you know, I would think that now the question would be like, the hot take would be like, is Alan Moore a better writer than Frank Miller is an artist? I'm not going to answer that up here. I don't want to.
So body of work and writing, you're giving to Alan?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think his stuff is more timeless. You know, you got V for Vendetta, Watchmen, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. You know, there's a lot of stuff that he did that I think is crazy. You know what I mean? So, and I like 300. It's cool. I like Ronin too. It's cool. Sin City I thought was cool as a noir thing as well. To me, the high point for Alan Moore is Dark Knight Returns. You know, but it's all biased though. You know, it's all subjective.
Well, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you, Chase, for your insights and experiences. Congrats again on the Emmy nominations.
Thank you.
We thank you all for coming.
Shout out to
That
the team,
concludes the
X-Men
press.
97 team. Thank you.
Baby, I see you hanging with your friends, chillin', day and night for days on end. Now you can't come see me tonight. Say you ain't got the time. I'm the last one you prioritize. Keeping your IG pictures on my phone.